How's it going, everybody? Zach here. So this video is going to be a little bit different than my past few have been. It's maybe going to be a little bit more podcasty, like less visuals and just me talking, because that's a bit easier to edit. But this is still a Kamen Rider rumors and news, speculation, whatever video. But on the topic of videos being a bit different, my channel and the videos that I'm making, it's still in that stage where I'm still not entirely sure like what direction I want to take it. And I know myself, and I know that if I'm just making videos only about Kamen Rider week after week, month after month, I'm going to get bored of it eventually, and I'm going to get burnt out on it. So with that in mind, for one thing, I'm going to also start covering Super Sentai related stuff, and probably also Ultraman. So of course the big three Toku shows, may also hit Power Rangers occasionally, or just any of the smaller Tokus. It just depends if they're doing something that really catches my interest. So like Toku stuff's going to be the main thing I talk about still, but I also want to talk about things beyond Toku, like not that far out, but stuff that the same crowds would usually go to. So like Pokemon, or maybe some select anime here and there, or the MCU. I mean, that's still superheroes. That's basically American Toku, basically. The thing furthest away from Toku that I may talk about might be like, I don't know, Dungeons and Dragons or something like that. Anyway, the point is, it's like the main thing I want to talk about is Toku, but I don't want that to be the only thing I can talk about on my channel, Now that being said, let's talk about Toku. So, possible spoilers ahead for Kamen Rider Revice if you're not caught up, and then also going into rumors for later in the season. So, past few episodes, they've introduced Kamen Rider Evil and Kamen Rider Demons, and it turns out that Kamen Rider Evil is actually Daiji's dead man who is possessing his body, who is named Kagero. And then Hiromi Kadota, when he finds out about this and finds out that it's possible that Daiji seeing him fail to transform is what created his dead man, he feels personally responsible, and George gives him the opportunity to become Kamen Rider Demons. And he gives him that red and black driver that's been in the background of George's lab for a few episodes, and it turns out that that's the Demons driver. Which, on the topic of Kamen Rider Demons real quick, I've been seeing where, people are saying, it's like, oh, he doesn't have a demon because Hiromi Kadota's dead man was already destroyed in the first episode. That's not necessarily true, because the show has already established that one person can possibly generate multiple dead man demons. They've shown that in the episodes with the girl that used the Kong dead man. She generated 2 of those. Like, Revice destroyed the first one, but then she stamped herself again and generated a second one that she then fused with. But then now we've had a premium Bandai release of the Demons driver, and they've now announced a new premium Bandai set of Vice stamps that are based on Showa riders, and they're going to be, looks like they're going to be used for Demon's Genomix forms, because he apparently has a gimmick where he can, stamp other stamps and they swap out the limbs of his suit. Which, the new stamps are the Sea Turtle, which is based on Kamen Rider V3, the Mole, which is based on Kamen Rider Amazon, and the Scorpion, which is based on Kamen Rider X. And I'm not sure if I even need to go over this, but just in case there's anybody out there who is confused about why these toys are being released in the first quarter of the show, but were not on the first quarter toy list, the toy lists that are generally, I guess, quote-unquote, leaked to the community, those are general retail lists. So those are just the products that Bandai is sending out to retail stores. With this being exclusively premium Bandai items, those would not be on the general retail list. But yeah, it is definitely surprising to see premium Bandai items showing up this early into the series. Typically they wait until the later half to start having premium Bandai releases. And as for the reason for that, I don't know why exactly, but I've heard some anecdotal evidence that I don't know for sure if it's true or not because I'm hearing it secondhand. But supposedly Hiromi Kadota, the original plan was that he was just supposed to straight up die in the first episode when he failed to use the Revice driver. But apparently when the actor auditioned, they liked him so much that they went, you know what, let's keep him around and make him a writer. And that's apparently what they've done. Which is supposedly also what happened with the Stay Caesar character on Zenkaiger. Like, that was originally not supposed to be a character in the show. Apparently the actor for Stacy auditioned for the Kaito role, and they're like, you're not right for this role, but we're going to actually write a whole other character into the show that you can play because we like you so much. Again, this is just anecdotal stories. I have no idea if these are actually true. I guess they could be, because all of these characters, or both of these characters I should say, have only had items released through Premium Bandai. So it's fairly clear that they were not in the original plan for the show. Because obviously the agreements they have with Bandai play a huge role into how the show ends up being written. Like, I can't hazard a guess at how exactly it works, but I imagine it's something of the Toei writers create a general breakdown of the series, and it's like, this is how many transforming characters we plan to have, and this is probably how many items that you could get out of it, and then they send that to Bandai, and then Bandai like approves it or says like, okay, but we need you to add this, and this for more toy sales, which is probably how you initially ended up with giant robots being in Kamen Rider and stuff like that. But yeah, they apparently make these agreements like way ahead of time. So like, for example, Saber, it was supposed to be a very different series before the well, crap, I can't actually say the word because I've heard that YouTube will censor the video if I do, but the bad thing that happened in 2020 for all of 2020 and is still happening now, let's just call it the panoramic. So yeah, the panoramic caused a lot of changes to how Saber was originally supposed to go. Like, again, this is just anecdotal evidence that I'm not 100% sure on. Supposedly, it was said in an interview somewhere. But supposedly, Kamen Rider Saber, before the panoramic, was supposed to be a darker, edgier series. And, like, Toma was supposed to be, like, this traveling loner swordsman type of deal. And he was having to travel around and fight the other swordsmen. But yeah, and then the lockdown happened, and they had to very quickly change how the show was because they couldn't get as many extras as they would need, and also they needed to make the show a lot more lighthearted for obvious reasons. But by that point, they had already made the agreements with Bandai to write all of those toys into the first quarter of Saber, and so they just had to stick with that and write around it. So, which, the first quarter of Saber was very toy heavy. Which, supposedly in the original plan for Saber, Saber Blades and Espada were supposed to be like these special holy beings who were able to handle the power of 3 books, which is why they get their Wonder Combo forms. Versus, Buster, Kenzon, and Slash mainly using 1 book, sometimes being able to use 2. So that's a nice little explanation for why they're different that, ended up never really being explained in the series that we got. But anyway, on to the rumor segment for Kamen Rider. We have a possible, I can't stress enough that this is not confirmed yet. This is still very much just a rumored list, but we have a possible second quarter toy list for Revice. But before I go over that, let's just quickly review what's left of the first quarter toy list that hasn't came out yet. So we've got the Mantis Vice Stamp, the Brachio Vice Stamp, and then the Evil Driver, or presumably the Evil Driver. The toy list, of course, lists it as the second Rider main belt. And then we got the Rider Hero Series figures for Buddy Rider B, whatever that ends up being. And then Second Rider A and Second Rider B, which presumably are live and evil. But I talked about how, which I had discussed last video, that, Buddy Rider B, if they're just labeling all of the Dead Man Riders as Buddy Riders, then that could be evil. And then Second Rider A might be live, and then Second Rider B could be live and evil sort of combined, like that might be their equivalent of a remix form. Now, of course, I said that before Kamen Rider Demons had been revealed, but I think that's still possible because I don't think that, I don't think one of the Second Rider figures is going to be Demons. I don't think he's anywhere on the first quarter toy list because since all of his releases so far have been on Premium Bandai, I don't think he was on the plan for the first quarter. But yeah, and all of that is just what's coming out in November. For early December, all the toy list has is a power-up item for, it says First Rider, so Revive Vice. Or it possibly could be either or. But the power-up item is rumored to be called Baruto Rex, which Baruto is apparently, I think it's a Spanish word, but it's an onomatopoeia for a trumpeting sound. So, trumpeting Rex. And it has been rumored more recently that the other Vice Stamps can apparently be scanned on this power-up item when it's already on the driver to unlock more abilities for the form. And then the last thing on the toy list and again, this is just early December, the last thing is just the Rider Hero Series figure for this Revice power-up form. But yeah, that is it for what is left of the confirmed first quarter toy list. Now, moving on to the, again, rumored second quarter list. So the very first items are set to come out on December 28th, so late December. Now, it's not unheard of for us to have specific dates like this on toy lists, but typically we don't get to see specific dates until closer to the quarter. Typically, I would expect to just see a generality, like saying late December. But anyway, coming out on December 28th, according to this rumored list, is the Movie Vice Stamp, a second power-up item for Revice, and then a power-up item set for Revice, which that seems to suggest that it's the power-up item from the first quarter, which is supposed to be the Baruto Rex, and then the second power-up item, which that kind of leans into the rumor of Baruto Rex being able to scan other items. It might be able to kind of connect onto this one, similar to Shining Assault Hopper from 01 or the Primitive and Elemental Dragon books from Saber. And then skipping over January, which is normal for the general retail toy list, although I would expect maybe some more Premium Bandai releases over December and January from the winter movie, because that's usually what happens. And then only one item releasing in February, according to this list, which it is normal for toy releases to slow down going forward in the year. But yeah, supposedly coming out on February 12th is yet another Revice power-up item, a third power-up item for Revice. And then moving forward into March, on March 12th is supposed to be what this list has as second Rider power-up item. So presumably that's for Live and Evil, because we're still assuming that is who the toy lists are listing as the second Rider. And then on March 26th is another power-up item for Revice. So we're up to 4 now. Like, that's a lot of forms. Like, having 4 power-up forms by March. That is a lot. Like, 01 only had 6 through the whole show, and 2 of those were Premium Bandai, so really what would be on the toy list, he'd just have 4. Or really, I guess just 3, because he shared one of his power-ups with Vulcan. And yeah, Saber had the exact same number, like 6 power-up items total, but 2 of them were Premium Bandai, so only 4 would be on the list. And yeah, it can't possibly be Revice's final form, can it? Because like it's way too early. Like we usually don't see final forms until the summer months. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on believing this list, really, because it looks reasonable-ish. Like I said, a lot of power-up items for Revice, but that don't mean it's fake. One thing I noticed is that, you know, they changed how they label things. Like the real first quarter toy list listed Revi and Vice as First Rider, and while this list is listing them as Revice. Of course, it's possible they changed it since the character's been revealed now. And then another thing that just kind of makes me hesitant to believe this list immediately is the fact that it has a movie Vice stamp on there. Again, that doesn't immediately make it fake, but Saber and 01, every single one of their movie items they've all been Premium Bandai exclusive. So I don't know why they would necessarily change things for Revice, but, you know, it's not impossible, because in the past, movie items were certainly released as general retail, just not the past couple years. But yeah, that's it for Kamen Rider rumors for the time being. I don't really have that much speculation to go along with this, other than just, I'm thinking Revice is probably still going to follow the same pattern that all of the Regal era Kamen Riders have gone through so far with their power-up forms. So, you know, it sounds like Barto Rex and then the power-up item after it are probably going to be the 2 that connect to each other. You know, like Shining Assault Hopper and Primitive Elemental. And then I'm expecting him to have, you know, a shiny metal form, a berserker form, maybe a form that shares a weapon with the secondary rider, although this second quarter list doesn't seem to have anything that looks like that. And then, of course, the final form. Or it's possible that the pattern's maybe more complex than what we've seen yet. You know, it could be that while 01 and Saber share having a shiny metal form, you know, that may not really fit Revice too well. So it might make more sense for, say, Revice and Saber to both share a skeletal bony form. You know, it may be a pattern more like that. Because having a form that's like a fossilized skeleton would certainly make more sense for Revice's dinosaur motif. So it could be that the Reiwa era riders going forward, you know, it might be that they just have one form that shares a similar motif with one of the riders before them's forms, and a form with the rider after them. But I'm getting really ahead of myself there. I mean, we haven't even seen what Revice's first power-up form is going to look like yet. Alright, and time for our first change in topics, sort of. Moving on to Super Sentai. But yeah, so spoilers for Zenkaiger if you're not completely caught up, which admittedly, I'm not completely caught up myself. I'm a couple episodes behind. But basically, they've been fighting Hawkeizer, and they've recently introduced the Zenryoko Zenkai Canon, and by extension, Zenryoko Zenkaio. I hope I'm saying these words right. Which, that's another thing that I've been hearing, just anecdotal stories that apparently come from like interviews or behind the scenes stuff that comes out. According to some of these stories, Zenryoko Zenkaio was not in the original plan. Like, they apparently were not originally, the 4 main Kikinoids were not supposed to combine with the Zenryoko canon. Although, as complex as like toy design stuff is, though, I can't imagine that that's true, and I don't know how or why the canon would have connection points on it if it wasn't in the plan. But supposedly they like sat down in a room and had to spend hours like figuring out how to make this makeshift creation. Although another thing that points to that not necessarily being true is the Zenryoko Zenkai canon has a Megazord head as a part of it. So it had to be in the design somewhere that it transformed into a robot. And it doesn't appear to have any other robot form so far. Unless there's something that's still to be released later that can combine with it to make a whole other, super robot. I don't see how that could possibly be true with it very clearly having a robot face. And I think it even has, like, the 4 Kikinoid voices programmed in as sound effects into the canon already. So I can't imagine that it wasn't at all in the plan for them all 4 to combine with it. So this is kind of making me wonder if there's not somebody out there just making up these stories that go like, hey, this wasn't in the original plan for the show. They're just, completely making it up as they go along, flying by the seat of their pants, improvising. It's crazy. But yeah, that's really all I have as far as actual news for Zenkaiger. I really just wanted to get that tangent out of the way. The rumors for Zenkaiger, though, its latter quarter, they're sounding kind of crazy. Pretty interesting if they end up being true. So, according to this rumor, allegedly, the Red Ranger for the next season of Super Sentai is actually going to be introduced into Zenkaiger in the January episodes, and he's actually going to stick around and be a series regular until the end of the series. And according to the same packet of rumors, this new Red Ranger, he apparently has a samurai motif or kind of a Momotaro motif. And his helmet apparently has, kind of a samurai-like top knot, and his visor apparently looks like peach leaves. Which that, of course, makes my mind go to Kamen Rider Den-O, with his sword form. His visor looked like the peach leaves with what is, of course, his Momotaro-based form. But aside from that, we don't really have any other descriptors of this new Ranger's suit. But it is kind of lining up with some older rumors about what the next season of Super Sentai, its motif might be. Rumors have been flying around about, like, oh, it's samurai themed, ninja themed, but 2 of the more specific rumors have been like a yokai or Japanese folklore motif, although that is kind of a rumor that's been floated around, like, past 2 or 3 years. But anyway, this same set of rumors also says that this new Red Ranger has a weapon that resembles the Zenkaiger's Geartlinger guns, but this new Ranger's, his is apparently able to transform into a motorcycle, or as it's described here, a motorcycle-like mech. And this bike mech is apparently able to combine with Juren. From the sound of this, it sounds like it might be able to turn into a robot half-body similar to the Zenkaio combinations. Although from a toys perspective, that seems like a lot. Having a gun mode, a bike mode, and a robot half-body mode. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's a lot. Well, I guess that being said, all of the Zenkaiger mechs have 3 modes. Like, they have the single robot mode, their alternate mode, for Juren, it's a T-Rex, and then they have the bigger robot half-body mode. Or I guess 4 now, because now they have the, either arm mode or leg mode to combine with Zenryoko Zenkaio. So yeah, I guess gun mode, bike mode, and half of a robot mode isn't too far out of the question. I guess I was thinking more because of the Geartlinger comparison about the gun also being the transformation device, so I was kind of thinking like that would be a lot for it to do, but nothing actually says that it is also the transformation device. Although now that I think about it, there's actually is an older rumor that was suggesting that next season the Zords would have weapon modes, so it really fits into that. Like that, or just the transformation device for the seasons would be a weapon or something like that, which that's not unusual, because there's been several Sentai that have had, sword changers, gun changers. But anyway, yeah, there's that. And the same rumor is also suggesting that once Zenkaiger ends, Zen Kaiser and Jurin are both going to continue on into the next season as series regulars. So it's kind of like a weird transitionary thing, sort of like they did in early Power Ranger seasons, where, despite the season changing motif, you still had like some of the cast stayed and some of them left and replacements were brought in. Which that's not completely unheard of, because early Kamen Rider did something similar, Kamen Rider Black to Black RX, or even just very early Showa. Although I think it would be a first for Sentai, and it's certainly just a first for just modern Toku. Or, well, not thinking of Ultraman, because they kind of carry over things seasonally pretty frequently. But another thing this rumor is suggesting is that, along with Zenkaiser and Jurin, the Sentai gears are also going to continue over into next season, but they're going to apparently be changed into a different form, quote-unquote. Apparently, they're going to change to more resemble shuriken instead of gears. But anyway, since this rumor has came out, there's also been some rumored toy listings come out, which, again, I don't know how much to believe this. I don't know if it kind of came out independently and is corroborating the other rumor, or if this is just somebody saw that first rumor and then quickly made up a toy list that seemed like it confirmed and was backing up the other rumor. So, it's really hard to tell. Looking at this list, I can't honestly tell if this is supposed to be a fourth quarter list for Zenkaiger, or if it's supposed to be the first quarter list for whatever the next Sentai is. Like, there's only 2 or 3 items on this list, so, if it was a first quarter list for the next Sentai, I would expect to see way more on here, and especially I would expect to see the other Rangers getting stuff, but it's only stuff for this new Red Ranger, which, again, he's being introduced in the later quarter of Zenkaiger, but at the same time, there's also no other Zenkaiger related stuff on the list. And I would expect to at least see, like, I don't know, maybe some other Sentai gears or something like that. But, yeah, I think it's safe to say this is maybe not a complete list if it is real. Which, I mean, that has happened before. We've gotten incomplete lists that ended up being real. But, alright, so here is this rumored toy list. The first item is the Change Hero series New Sentai Red Ranger. So, basically just a basic action figure. And according to this list, that's supposed to come out January 8th of 2022. And the description of this figure, which that's kind of unusual because we don't normally get descriptions with toy lists, but it might depend on what the source on this is. It echoes the description of this Red Ranger having a peach leaf shaped visor, being Momotaro themed, having a top knot on the helmet, and this one also adds that he apparently has armored pieces on his suit similar to what Zenkaiser has. So the extra chest and shoulder armor. And then the second item on this toy list, also supposed to be releasing January 8th, 2022, according to this, is DX New Sentai Bike Mecha. And according to this description with it, it is the new Red Ranger's personal mecha, and it can go from Henshin gun mode to motorcycle mode. So the Bike Zord is also the new Red Ranger's transformation device. So, yeah, that is a lot all in one. So it's an all-in-one Morpher personal weapon and Zord. That is a lot. And it's his personal vehicle, because it sounds like, it has the handheld mode, or handheld size mode, that's the gun mode, and then it can grow to kind of a human size mode for motorcycle mode that the new Red Ranger rides around on, like like a regular motorcycle. But then it can also grow to like giant mecha Zord size, and then it also has the robot transformation mode because also according to this description, it echoes the other rumor of it being able to combine with Jurin. And apparently, it combined with Jurin is going to be the first like main mech of the new Sentai series, which that just sounds crazy to me. I mean, that being said, Zenkaiger has been like really experimental. It's not impossible. I mean, they've been throwing curveballs left and right. But yeah, and the rest of the description, it echoes the previous rumor saying that the Bike Mech's gun mode resembles the Zenkaiger's Geertlinger, and it says that the bike mode actually resembles the road sector from Kamen Rider Black. Now I wonder if by saying that it resembles the Geertlinger, do they mean it also has like the bird face on it? Does this thing also have like a secret eagle mode? Because why not? It sounds like this is just some kind of amazing magic toy that can transform into anything and do anything they need it to. Oh, and apparently the bike mech also still works with the Sentai gears, or at least the new evolved Sentai gears that apparently now look like more like Shuriken, which, if you're unfamiliar, Shuriken is the real name for ninja throwing stars. Again, I don't know if I need to explain that to anybody, but in case anybody didn't know. But yeah, and these new Shuriken Sentai gears, they apparently resemble the Nin Shurikens from Nin Ninja, at least in terms of shape. And so apparently the Red Ranger action figure or Change Hero series figure, it comes with one of these for his transformation, and then the Bike Mecha comes with its own one for its Zord transformation combination, whatever. And I actually just noticed this one on here, a third item on this list, set for February 5th of 2022. And it's DX New Sentai Bike Robo. And this is apparently a set of the new Bike Mecha and Zenkai Jurin. Because apparently, yeah, they do just combine together like any other Zenkaio combination, where the two half bodies. So yeah, according to this, it's going to be a completely red, like, Zenkaio. Also, according to this, it says that the head resembles Great Icarus from Jetman. So that's kind of like just a standard Megazord head, but with like a big like bird head sticking out over the top of it. Which again suggests that the bike mech also has this bird motif on top of everything else. But yeah, that's just a crazy mech. Like, if the mech is everything, it's the transformation device, the vehicle, the weapon, on top of being the mech on its own, like, what other toys are they going to be able to sell? Like, just figures and more Sentai gears? Like, it sounds crazy, but again, Zenkaiger's been crazy. Of course, that being said, they could go all in and have like just a huge amount of mechs and Zords next season. Kind of the opposite of what they've done with Zenkaiger this year. Like, Zenkaiger has felt kind of Zord light, at least compared to recent past seasons. I don't know. I think I'm going to think of this one as, it sounds so crazy that it could be made up, but it also sounds so crazy that you wouldn't make it up, But yeah, for the time being, we don't know what the name for the next Sentai even is yet. There hasn't been any official trademarks. Although, do be careful out there, because there's been some like fake trademark pages already with like a fake name. And then, which this rumored toy list is, it may not be an official name, but it's using the term Bakutaro Sentai for the new Ranger. So Baku could relate to like an explosion, and then Taro could be a reference to the Momotaro motif. But yeah, that could be a placeholder name. But I mean, if this list ends up being real, maybe that is the first part of the real name, but they just didn't put the whole thing for some reason. Who knows? But yeah, and that's all I have for Super Sentai for the time being. I unfortunately don't really have anything to say about Ultraman at the moment, because I'm horribly behind on Ultraman right now. But for the sake of, like I said, wanting to branch out from Toku, I you know it's also the rumor season for Pokemon right now, and I know a lot of Toku fans are also Pokemon fans. And there's been a lot of interesting news and rumors with Pokemon because new games are coming out. You got the Gen 4 remakes, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, coming out this November, and then just this upcoming January, we've got Legends Arceus, which is very exciting. I'm very excited about that one. But yeah, since this is the first time I'm talking about Pokemon on the channel, I'm going to use like simple terms and just try and explain things pretty clearly, just in case anyone's not familiar, since this is normally a Toku channel. Like I said, trying to branch out some. Like honestly, if you're new to Pokemon and are thinking about getting into it, or was a fan of the older generations and are thinking about getting back into it, honestly, my best recommendation would be just to pick up Sword and Shield, or Sword or Shield, because this year's new games would be kind of a weird place to start, because Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, it's regular gameplay, but it's a different studio. It looks kind of weird, and they say that it's a faithful remake of Diamond and Pearl, but who knows really. And then Legends Arceus is looking like it's going to be completely off the walls, experimental, like nothing the franchise has ever done before. Which, that could also be an interesting like starting point, or it could be an interesting thing to look at if you never really liked Pokemon games before, because it looks like it might play very differently. And for that matter, I mean, the timeline in Pokemon games isn't a hugely important thing unless you're just like super, super deep into the lore of the franchise. But Legends Arceus is going to be the first point in the Pokemon timeline once it comes out. Because, it takes place in like, it's not really like feudal Japan times, but like it's like 1800s basically, but it looks like feudal Japan because that area of Japan was not settled that well, or at least it's based on that area of Japan in that time period. We really don't know how long ago it takes place, because like Pokemon kind of plays around with like their basing their lore off real life history. So like in Pokemon, the Unova region is based off of the state of New York, and the state of New York has only existed like maybe a couple hundred years, but in the Pokemon universe, it's like the Unova region was founded like 3,000 years ago or something like that. But yeah, as far as the news for the games go, or recent news, the Gen 4 remakes, there's not a whole lot because, again, they're supposed to be faithful remakes, quote unquote. The biggest revamp is the Underground, the Sinnoh Underground, as they call it. Used to it was just a system of tunnels that was kind of like a maze that ran under the region. This one looks a bit interesting, what they've been showing. It's like a network of tunnels, but there's like little underground ecosystems. Like there's a underground forest, an underground lake, an underground desert, and I think an underground like Arctic tundra type place. Which Pokemon has been doing like more with like underground stuff in Sword and Shield too, like with the Max Raid lair place, where it's just like a network of tunnels under the region where there's just like these Dynamaxed legendary Pokemon for some reason. And like that's almost leading me to think like there's some sort of Pokemon Hollow Earth theory or something like that. Like from the Godzilla franchise, where it's just like the legendary Pokemon use a hidden network of tunnels that run underneath the earth to travel. Just something crazy like that. Because it's like, how else do you explain just, a bunch of, god Pokemon being... It's like, yeah, they're just in a cave underground in this one region. But yeah, now in the Sinnoh remakes, they're showing like, hey, there's ecosystems underground in the Pokemon world too. So that kind of maybe points to that more. I don't know. And yeah, everything about the Sinnoh remakes, though, has been saying, other than the underground, it's going to be pretty vanilla. Although some of the rumors are saying that the legendary Pokemon for the game, Palkia and Dialga, which, if you're unfamiliar with the franchise, they're basically two of the god Pokemon of the Pokemon universe. Dialga is basically the god of time, and Palkia is basically the god of space. And they are the box art cover legendaries for the Gen 4 remake games. But yeah, a lot of the rumors are suggesting that they are going to get new forms in their respective games. So it may be something like the primal forms like Groudon and Kyogre had in the Gen 3 remakes, or it may be something like similar to Giratina's origin form, which Giratina is kind of the third of their trio, if you're unfamiliar. So like the three of them are time, space, and Giratina is antimatter. But yeah, some of the rumors are saying that they're going to get this new form in either in their respective game, Brilliant Diamond or Shining Pearl. Some of the rumors are saying no, they don't get them in that game, but if you catch them in that game and transfer them over to Legends Arceus once it comes out, there'll be something in that game which will let them take on this new form. But yeah, Dialga and Palkia getting new forms is really the only consistent rumor I've been seeing for the Gen 4 remakes. Everything else I've been seeing, I would kind of just think would fall under more wishful thinking or speculation than anything else. We don't really have any evidence that these things exist. But, there's people thinking that, okay, they're probably going to have in-game content like a glistening platinum episode in the same way that the Gen 3 remakes had the Delta Emerald episode, which, that's not out of the question, obviously. But, some of the other people are thinking like, oh, they'll probably add that on as DLC later. And then before I say this, I want to say that I haven't really been like tracking rumors in the Pokemon community for anywhere near as long as I have been in the Toku community. So, I maybe don't know which sources are good versus not as well. But the sources I think are maybe more reliable are saying, the Gen 4 remakes are not going to have any sort of DLC whatsoever. That being said, that could just be the current plan, and things may change down the road. Or it could be that they just mean not DLC to the same scale that Sword and Shield has gotten DLC. Not full on expansions like Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra. But yeah, and of course there's people wanting to see new forms out of the Gen 4 remakes, like not entirely new Pokemon because that would be unusual to see in a remake, but at least people got spoiled to the Gen 3 remakes introducing new Mega forms, so people were going, oh, they're probably going to introduce like new Megas or new Gigantamax forms or something along with the new gimmicks. But so far there's no real evidence that any of that stuff's going to be in the Gen 4 remakes. And I know there's a lot of people in the community who have given up hope that there's going to be like new Megas or new Gigantamaxes in BDSP. And I feel like the main reason for that fear is, Sword and Shield didn't and still does not have Megas. Which, also, not to pour salt in old wounds, but it is the same game that had the National Dex cut. And, I feel like it would just kind of be insult to injury if, like, your favorite Pokemon didn't make the cut, but, Bimblewimble and Mega Bimblewimble made the cut, So yeah, I feel like that's the main reason that Sword and Shield just cut all of the Megas, is to cut down on some of the National Dex salt. Because there's really like zero evidence that the franchise is done with Mega Pokemon. The main games before Sword and Shield, Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon, they had all the Megas. or immediately before Sword and Shield, Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. Like, even though it was a Gen 1 remake and they cut the decks down to literally just having first generation Pokemon, they still had all of the Mega Evolutions for the first generation Pokemon, and all of the Alolan regional variants for the first generation Pokemon, and even like a brand completely new mythical Pokemon. So, it's reasonable that Gen 4 remakes could get the same treatment, even though that hasn't really been advertised. They're being advertised as like faithful remakes, but Mega Evolutions were not really advertised with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. I remember that being like a huge surprise that the Mega Evolutions were in the game, because that wasn't even like a rumored thing. Or at least it was a surprise to my memory. I maybe was not keeping track of the news that closely. But yeah, and like I think the biggest piece of evidence is that even in the anime, they're diving back into Mega Evolution Pokemon. Like the most recent episode, Ash went to a special secret hidden island to find a Mega Stone so that his Lucario can Mega Evolve. And Lucario, of course, being one of the most iconic Pokemon of Gen 4. If that's not advertising for the Gen 4 remakes, I don't know what is. Now, I mean, it's possible that the anime development team just had this cool idea that, they wanted Ash's Lucario to be able to Mega Evolve, and his Pikachu do his E-move, and his Gengar be able to Gigantamax. But the anime and the games have a very clear, like, symbiotic relationship with each other, and the anime has pretty clearly been used to sort of hint at aspects of future games before they release. Like, months before Sword and Shield were even announced, the Pokemon Sun and Moon anime was very clearly hinting at the concept of Dynamaxing. One episode, they involved a shrink ray, and like as an end of the episode gag, it malfunctioned and made Togedemaru, which normally a very small Pokemon, turned it into a giant Pokemon. It's just kind of an end of the episode gag. That one could be a coincidence, but then like even closer to the announcement of Sword and Shield, they were putting on like this shadow puppet show type of thing, and in order to defeat this person they were fighting, they had Pikachu grow to giant size. So that's a very clear reference to Dynamaxing. And like I said, this episode came out months before Sword and Shield were even announced. And like, so Dynamaxing wasn't even a concept in the audience's mind at the time. So that just made the scene like stand out even more. It's just bizarre. But yeah, with that being said, that makes it hard for me to think that a iconic Gen 4 Pokemon going to a secret island and being able to Mega Evolve there a month before the Gen 4 remakes come out, I'm having a hard time believing that's just a coincidence, So it could just be another case, like remember Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee being, where they've just kept Mega Evolutions being in the game pretty tightly under wraps. Or it could be possibly in-game content only, and there is like this secret island that you go to. Or possibly there's another rumor that Sword and Shield are going to be getting another DLC expansion, like a similar sized one to the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra. I don't know how true that could be, because that would be a pretty significant turnaround from doing Legends Arceus. Basically, the idea is that this DLC would add in the rest of the Pokemon that are still missing from Sword and Shield's what would be the national decks. Because really, there's only like 200 something still missing from it. And that's kind of, the expansions have been kind of adding them back in like 200 and some change increments. And if I remember correctly, most of what's still missing is Gen 4 Pokemon. So, it would really make a lot of sense for, hey, they're releasing these Gen 4 remakes that are going to have all of these Pokemon. Let's, give Sword and Shield another DLC to, put them back into the decks so that they can at least be traded between these two games. Like, that just makes good sense, doesn't it? But yeah, I feel like, Sword and Shield could probably pretty easily finish up the national decks and, even add back in all the megas with just one more DLC. Like, I don't know any of, like, the really detailed, intensive stuff of game development, but I feel like that's not unreasonable. I don't know what the turnaround time would be necessarily, but like basically there was like 6 or 7 months between Sword and Shield coming out and then Isle of Armor coming out, and then between Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra it's only like 4 months. So hypothetically, if they're doing that right after Legends Arceus, you could see, probably another Sword and Shield DLC by March or April. And honestly, it wouldn't even have to be this huge DLC like the other two. Like, literally just, a small area for, basically like this secret Mega Evolution Island in the anime. Maybe a small little plot. But, it doesn't really matter as long as they finish up the national decks. That's the main thing. Like, I would just like to be able to have all of the Pokemon available in the core game for the generation, because the generation's almost over. Like, basically this 2022 should be the last year of Generation 8, because like the 3-year increments or 3-4 year increments that they run in. But that's another rumor that I've been seeing pop up consistently, that the first Generation 9 game is going to be out in 2022. And if that's the case and it's in Game Freak's like normal release window, kind of November, December, like it normally is, like that's where having another Sword and Shield DLC becomes unreasonable. If they're cranking out a whole other new generation game. That being said, I don't know if this is possible, but maybe they could outsource the Sword and Shield DLC to Ilka, this new studio that worked on BDSP. Like I said, I don't know if that's possible to have one studio develop a DLC for a game developed by another studio, but their games have interconnectivity, or supposed to. But yeah, I'm just kind of rambling about this at this point. Because there's not really any concrete confirmation that there's going to be, another Sword and Shield DLC, or Gen 9 in 2022. It's all just rumors. Again, it's the somewhat reliable or possibly more reliable rumors that are saying Gen 9 in 2022. But again, I don't know for certain. But yeah, quickly moving on to Legends Arceus. The biggest recent news is they revealed Hisuian Zora and Zoroark, and they are apparently normal and ghost type. And yeah, that's like the biggest like actual confirmed news for Legends Arceus. Everything else I got is just kind of rumors. Like I said, there's the rumor if you transfer Palkia and Dialga over from BDSP that there's going to be something in Legends Arceus to give them a new form. Supposedly. I've been hearing a consistent rumor that there's going to be around 20 new Pokemon in Legends Arceus, if you count the regional variants. Like one rumor even broke it down and saying like, okay, there's 7 brand new Pokemon, and then like 17 like just Hisuian regional variants, regional evolutions. And then another consistent rumor is the starter Pokemon having Hisuian variants or just Hisui specific evolutions for their final form. And like I said, I don't know if it's like, okay, for Rowlet, if it's Hisuian Decidueye or if it's just a completely like new Pokemon that's just a branching evolution. But yeah, that has become a consistent rumor of just the starters having a different final evolution. And recently, the typings of the final evolutions have become consistent rumors. So, Rowlet, whose final form is normally Grass Ghost, is apparently supposed to be Grass Fighting. Oshawott, who is normally Pure Water, its final form is supposed to become Water Dark. And then Cyndaquil, whose final form Typhlosion is normally Pure Fire, the Hisuian final form is supposed to be Fire and Ghost. Which actually, that makes me think of another point. Cyndaquil and Oshawott being two of your starter options in Legends Arceus, I think makes it even more important for Sword and Shield to finish the National Dex, because as it stands, if you wanted to, you're not going to be able to transfer over Cyndaquil and Oshawott and their evolutions because they're just not in the game. Like, none of the Generation 2 and 5 starter evolution lines are, which I've talked about Sword and Shield and the National Dex issues too much already, but it really does suck that, like, you can't, there's some starter Pokemon still that you can't get into the game, because, I mean, that's likely somebody's first Pokemon. But yeah, back on topic, Legends Arceus rumors. So there's another rumor that Sneasel is going to get a new evolution. I don't know if that's going to mean like Hisuian Weavile or like just a new branch, but supposedly it's the a Pokemon that we've already seen as a silhouette in like marketing materials, like one that's like climbing a hill, and it's supposed to be like a rideable Pokemon. And then there's a rumor about Hisuian Bonsly and Sudowoodo, and then possibly maybe another evolution on top of that line. And then I've been seeing a lot of rumors consistently say a Hisuian regional variant of Voltorb and Electrode, and then a new evolution for Ursaring, which it would have to be a completely new evolution because we've already seen just regular Ursaring in the trailers. Also, a lot of consistent rumors about Hisuian Meowth regional variant, although that's probably just speculation because that's the pattern, you know, because like every new region since they've introduced regional variants has had a new Meowth variation. And I've been consistently seeing rumors about either a evolution of Dunsparce or a Hisuian Dunsparce. And another consistent rumor that I've been seeing lately is that the Warden, who they introduced in a trailer, but they didn't introduce what her noble Pokemon is, it's being pretty consistently rumored that whatever her noble Pokemon is, it is somehow female specific. And that's led a lot of people to think that it might be a new Jinx evolution or a Hisuian Jinx, because female only Pokemon. Although I did see a rumor recently that said that there's going to be a new evolution of Kirlia that would, kind of in the same way that Gallade only evolves from male Kirlia, this new evolution would only evolve from female Kirlia. I mean, even though Gardevoir is kind of already the female counterpart to Gallade, but both genders of Kirlia can evolve into Gardevoir, so female only counterpart is I think the idea. And supposedly it's I think Psychic Dark, but yeah, that's a really odd and specific rumor, so that's kind of got me wondering if that's not supposed to be this female specific noble Pokemon that's been rumored. That being said, it or a Jinx variation, they could both work, because the Warden is like probably a psychic type user because she appears to be the ancestor to a character who was a psychic type user in Diamond and Pearl. But yeah, I think that's all I really have to talk about this week. Thank you all for watching. If you've watched this whole hour-long video, Tell me in the comments how you like this new format of doing videos. Because, like I said, this is a bit more podcasty, and I'm not sure about it. I'm still experimenting, but like I said, this is easier to make than the other type of videos, and so that could hopefully let me make them more consistently and also not get burnt out making them and talking about just literally just Kamen Rider week after week. So, a little more variety. Hoping, like I said, hoping to kind of diversify the topics I cover. But like I said, I will be covering Kamen Rider and Super Sentai fairly consistently. Right now, I'm going to say that I won't be covering Pokemon as much unless people just really like that and want me to keep covering it consistently. Yeah, like I said, I'm still just trying to figure out like what areas I want to branch out into. And I'm excited about the upcoming Pokemon games, so that was just something I want to talk about this time. But yeah, honestly, this is like maybe a couple weeks worth of news and rumors for these different things, so this is probably a longer video. Like if I'm doing this consistently week to week, they're probably be shorter. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and especially thank you if you watched this entire hour video. And I'll see you next time.